Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Black Fiction Addiction. I'm your host, Chandra Sparks Splond, and as always, I'm just so excited to be here with you today as we celebrate Black books and the authors who create them. On Monday, January 20th, we'll celebrate the life and achievements of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. In his honor, today I'm talking about books set during the Civil Rights Movement, which ran from 1954 to 1968. If you want to share the civil rights experience with your kids, there are several great books you can read or listen to. One Crazy Summer by Rita Williams-Garcia. In this Newbery Honor novel, New York Times bestselling author Rita Williams-Garcia tells the story of 11-year-old Delphine, who is like a mother to her two younger sisters, Vanetta and Fern. She's had to be ever since their mother, Cecile, left them several years ago for a radical new life in California. But when the sisters arrive from Brooklyn to spend the summer with their mother, Cecile is nothing like they imagined. While the girls hope to go to Disneyland and meet Tinkerbell, their mother sends them to a day camp run by the Black Panthers. Unexpectedly, Delphine, Vanetta, and Fern learn about their family, their country, and themselves during one truly crazy summer. Now, I actually listened to the audiobook for this story, which was read by CC Aisha Johnson, and I thought she did a great job with it. Also, if your kids enjoyed this book, there are two more in the series, PSB 11 and Gone Crazy in Alabama. Brown Girl Dreaming by Jacqueline Woodson. Raised in South Carolina and New York, Jacqueline Woodson always felt halfway home in each place. In vivid poems, she shares what it's like to grow up as an African American in the 1960s and 1970s. Living with the remnants of Jim Crow and her growing awareness of the civil rights movement. Woodson's eloquent poetry also reflects the joy of finding her voice through writing stories, despite the fact that she struggled with reading as a child. Her love of stories inspired her and stayed with her, creating the first sparks of the gifted writer she's become. I listened to this one last year and it was narrated by the author, and hearing her share her own stories added so much color to the book. The Watsons Go to Birmingham by Christopher Paul Curtis. Get ready to enter the hilarious world of 10-year-old Kenny and his family, who's known as the Weird Watsons of Flint, Michigan. There's Mama, Dad, little sister Joetta, and brother Byron, who's 13 and an official juvenile delinquent. When Byron gets to be too much trouble, they head south to Birmingham to visit Grandma, the one person who can shape him up. And they happen to be in Birmingham when Grandma's church is blown up. If you're new to audiobooks or have been hesitant to give them a try, this book might be a great place to start because it's read by LeVar Burton of Reading Rainbow, Roots, and Star Trek fame. If you're looking for books for older kids, for yourself or for your book club, there are also plenty of great options. Freshwater Road by Denise Nicholas. Freshwater Road has been called one of the best novels written about the civil rights movement. It's written by Denise Nicholas, who starred in the television show In the Heat of the Night, as well as in 70s films A Piece of the Action and Let's Do It Again. This coming-of-age story is set in Mississippi during the Freedom Summer of 1964. When University of Michigan sophomore Celeste Tyree travels to Mississippi to volunteer her efforts in Freedom Summer, she's assigned to help register voters in the small town of Pineyville, a place best known for a notorious lynching that occurred only a few years earlier. As the long hot summer unfolds, Celeste befriends several members of the community, but there are also those who are threatened by her and the change that her presence in the South represents. Finding inner strength as she helps lift the veil of oppression and learns valuable lessons about race, social change, and violence, Celeste prepares her adult students for their showdown with the county registrar. All the while she struggles with loneliness, a worried father in Detroit, and her burgeoning feelings for Ed, a young man also in Mississippi for the summer. By summer's end, Celeste learns there are no easy answers to the questions that preoccupy her about violence and nonviolence, about race, identity, and color, and about the strength of love and family bonds. Your Blues Ain't Like Mine by Bebe Campbell. This book, which is based on the true story of Emmett Till, won an NAACP Image Award for the Best Literary Work of Fiction, which is really not surprising because the late Bebe Campbell, who's also a New York Times bestselling author, was an amazing writer and storyteller. So in the book, Chicago-born Armstrong Todd is 15, black, and unused to the ways of the segregated Deep South when his mother sends him to spend the summer with relatives in rural Mississippi. For speaking a few innocuous words in French to a white woman, Armstrong is killed, and the world and its people, both white and black, are changed, then and forever, by the horror of poverty, the legacy of justice, and the singular gift of love's power to heal. Bombingham by Anthony Grooms. This book is often taught in high schools and colleges. It follows Walter Burke, who is in his barracks trying to write a letter to the parents of a fallen soldier, an Alabama man who died in a muddy rice paddy. But all he can think of is his childhood friend Lamar, the friend with whom he first experienced the fury of violence on the streets of Birmingham at the heights of the civil rights movement. The juxtaposition is so powerful between war-torn Vietnam and terror-filled Bombingham that he is drawn back to the summer that would see his transition from childish wonder at the world to a certain knowledge of his place in it. Grant Park by Leonard Pitts Jr. Grant Park begins in 1968 with Martin Luther King's final days in Memphis. The story then moves to the eve of the 2008 election and cuts between the two eras. Disillusioned columnist Malcolm Toussaint, fueled by yet another report of unarmed black men killed by police, hacks into his newspaper's server to post an incendiary column that's been rejected by his editors. Toussaint then disappears, and his longtime editor, Bob Carson, is summarily fired within hours of the column's publication. While a furious Carson tries to find Toussaint while simultaneously dealing with the reappearance of a lost love from his days as a 60s activist, Toussaint is abducted by two white supremacists plotting to explode a bomb at Barack Obama's planned rally in Chicago's Grant Park. Toussaint and Carson are forced to remember the choices they made as young men, when both their lives were changed profoundly by their work in the civil rights movement. The Good Negress by A.J. Verdelle. Set in 1960s Detroit, the novel centers around Denise Palms, who leaves her grandmother's home in rural Virginia to reunite with her mother, stepfather, and older brothers. Denise is given scarce opportunities beyond cooking, cleaning, and raising her mother's baby. But an idealistic, demanding teacher opens Denise's eyes to a future she has never considered, and soon she begins to question the limits of the life prescribed to her. With lyrical, evocative prose, A.J. Verdelle captures Denise's journey from adolescence to womanhood as she navigates the tension between loyalty and independence and between circumstance and desire. Dreamer by Charles Johnson. Set against the tensions of the civil rights era, Dreamer examines the last 2 years of Martin Luther King Jr.'s life, when the political and personal pressures of this country's most preeminent moral leader were the greatest. While in Chicago for his first Northern campaign against poverty and inequality, King encounters Sham Smith, whose startlingly physical resemblance to King wins him the job of official stand-in. Matthew Bishop, a civil rights worker and loyal follower of King, is given the task of training the smart and deeply cynical Smith for the job. In doing so, Bishop must face the issue of what makes one man great while another man can only stand in for greatness. Promise Me a Dream by Wayne Jordan. In this romance, Chandra Williams' dream of becoming an actress carries her from her home on Barbados to the bright lights of Broadway. But it's the 1960s, and her goal of gracing the stage is obstructed by the limited opportunities for black actresses. Driven to help end discrimination and inequality, Chandra joins the civil rights movement. Joel Donovan doesn't understand the need for the civil rights movement. His life of privilege has sheltered him from the struggles of the black community. However, he's intrigued by the courage and commitment of the beautiful immigrant from Barbados. Their attraction is immediate and powerful, and Joel is persuaded to join the movement. When their efforts result in Joel's freedom being challenged, Chandra gives him her unwavering support. But can their growing love survive the racial tensions and conflicts of the times? Well, that's it for this week's episode, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'd love for you to share the books you read in that focus on the civil rights era, and I'd be honored if you'd like and share this video. You can also hit the subscribe button and click the bell if you'd like to be notified when new episodes are available. Until next time, I hope you find a book that gets you addicted.